Well, there is a new film coming out that takes a look at a group called the Muslim Brotherhood and its influence around the world and here at home. The documentary is called The Grand Deception, and it describes what the filmmakers call the dual nature of the Muslim Brotherhood. To the outside world, it tries to present a moderate image, claim the filmmakers, all the while hiding more radical goals, including goals for America. Here's a clip from the trailer.
The Muslim Brotherhood is an international movement, the goal of which is to create an Islamic state universally, all over the world.
In my mind, the Muslim Brotherhood is the mother of all Islamic organizations of the 20th century, including Al-Qaeda.
Democracy, the black people freedom, no people want to democratize Islam, we want to Islamize democracy.
They believe that Western civilization is corrupt, is evil, is decadent, and they want to dismantle it.
Joining me now is the film's producer, Steve Emerson. He's also the founder of the Investigative Project on Terrorism. Steve, welcome back to the program.
Hi, Megyn.
So what is this about? Is it about the Muslim Brotherhood in America or around the world?
Well, it's primarily about the Muslim Brotherhood and other radical Islamic offshoots in the United States that hide under the moniker of being, quote, civil rights groups or innocent religious groups, but in fact have an ulterior agenda and are members of the larger Muslim Brotherhood infrastructure. In fact, all we did was to video secretly, behind closed doors, radical rallies of Muslim Brotherhood organizations in the United States and capture their statements in which they talk about supporting jihad, supporting taking over the United States, supporting terrorism, calling the United States an anti-Muslim power, and claiming that all arrests since 9/11 were fabricated. And then publicly, before the news cameras, before the New York Times or on television, they claim they're against terrorism. They claim they're for peace and for love, and that they're for moderation. But in fact, it's a grand deception. And the reason I call the movie The Grand Deception is that it comes from actually an FBI wiretap of radical Islamic members of Hamas secretly meeting in Philadelphia in 1993, which the FBI wiretapped, in which they openly talk about the use of deception to fool the American public into making the public believe that they're actually moderate when they really are supporters of a Hamas, a notorious terrorist group.
There is a soundbite in the film from the director of the Islamic Society of North America that speaks to the points you just raised. I want to play that for the viewers now. This is soundbite number 3, Control Room.
Our job is to change the Constitution of America.
There was a systematic plan to establish an Islamist beachhead in the United States with the eventual goal of watching the United States crumble from within and establishing Islamic rule in this country.
Is this present day, Steve?
Absolutely. Look, they know they have to clean up their act, and they did since 9/11, since the language they were using before 9/11 was too incendiary, and they didn't think anybody was watching. Now they know people are watching, but we still go behind closed doors. My organization, the Investigative Project on Terrorism, sends in dozens of informants every month to record secretly what goes on behind closed doors, and the proof is in the pudding. The man who just said we have to change the Constitution is speaking at a rally, actually, where the head of the American Muslim Council, a man named Mr. Alamoudi, who for 13 years was invited to the White House, the CIA, the FBI, testified at Congress, and yet in 2003 he was arrested for a conspiracy involving Al-Qaeda to murder the head of Saudi Arabia. And in the indictment, it showed that for the previous 8 years, while he had access to the White House, while he had access to the FBI, while he was sent abroad by the State Department, he was secretly a member of and a courier for Hamas and Al-Qaeda. This is the deception.
I want to talk to you about one of the more shocking clips in the documentary of this man who was giving the invocation before the U.S. Congress, and then shortly thereafter talks about the U.S. being a garbage can. We're going to play that and discuss it next.
In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, guide the leaders of this nation who have been given a great responsibility in worldly affairs. Guide them and grant them righteousness and wisdom. I want to defend this country. You know what this country is? is a garbage can. It's filthy. It's filthy and sick.
Steve Emerson back with me now, the producer of a new film that's coming out called The Grand Deception. Who was that guy?
Siraj Wahhaj is a major imam from Brooklyn who was actually was the first Muslim to open the invocation of Congress in 1991, but in fact is a very, very radical militant Muslim cleric who has called for jihad. He has supported terrorism. In fact, he was an unindicted co-conspirator in the 1993 World Trade Center bombing case. And believe it or not, despite all that has come out, including his unindicted status, to this very day, he is still being invited to and paid for by U.S. government agencies to speak at counterterrorism conferences.
Wow.
And this goes on, I mean, this is just one example in the film. There are dozens of other examples where radical Islamic groups, and when I say radical Islamic groups or Muslim Brotherhood groups, it's not me defining them. We're using the words that they themselves use, or the documents that were found.
Excuse me for interrupting, because we're up against a hard break, but I want to just ask, is there a difference? Because we are told that the Muslim Brotherhood, some factions of it, are much more moderate. This I give you from the New York Times. It is at its core a middle-class missionary institution led by, not by religious scholars, but by doctors, lawyers, and professionals. We were told over in Egypt that that's what the Muslim Brotherhood looked like, not so much these radicals.
No, in fact, they are doctors and lawyers and engineers. They are the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood is made up mostly of its leaders, of Dr. Ayman al-Zawahiri, the #2 of al-Qaeda after the deceased Osama bin Laden, was a pediatrician, a surgeon. So, in fact, the Muslim Brotherhood is a totalitarian regime. There's no doubt about that. It's what they say themselves, what they say on their websites, what they say in speeches that we have on the film. But then before the New York Times, which pretends that they are simply apolitical and moderate, they present themselves with a facade of being peaceful. Nothing could be further from the truth, and that's the basic essence of the film, is to show the duplicity of how these groups pretend to be moderate, but behind closed doors are as radical as the Ku Klux Klan.
Steve, thanks for being here.
You're
Coming
welcome.
up, a dramatic twist in a high-profile